everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to week 3 of Vlogmas 2025. It is officially Christmas week. Today is December 23rd and I'm just so excited to be starting a new vlog for this year's Vlogmas with you guys. I have been reading some really good books and I'm also just vibing right now because I've had a lot of time off for Christmas, for winter break, and so that just means that I get to read more than usual, so I'm just having a good time. So let's just dive right on into a reading update. I have some books to update you guys about. I'm in the middle of 2 books and I finished a book yesterday, so yeah. First up, I want to update on 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. This is book 1.5 in her Crowns of Nyaxia series. I started this not yesterday, but the day before, and I finished my reread of this yesterday. I read this for the first time back in April, and I remember really loving it. But I feel like over the last few months, I had kind of forgotten why I loved this novella so much. And so I wanted to reread it to see if it really was all that amazing and is one of my like top 10 books that I read this year. So this is about Lilith. She is a human. This is a fantasy romance novella. Basically an illness has ravaged her hometown. Her sister is dying from this illness, but Lilith herself has always been like cursed by death. And she also has her own illness that she's dealing with, and so she's always kind of felt that she's been dying since she was born, basically. And so she is a scientist. She is a very smart woman, and she decides to try her best to create a cure for this illness that her sister is suffering from and that most of her hometown is suffering from. And so she has done a lot of research and has found that maybe vampire blood is the secret to curing this disease. And so she strikes a bargain with this vampire named Vale, that in exchange for some of his blood, she will give him 6 roses, 1 rose per visit. And so this goes on from there, and it's their romance. And so this is Vale and Lilith's romance. And upon reread, I still really loved this novella. I really truly think that this is still one of the best novellas that I've ever read. This novella is less than 200 pages. I think it's like 180 pages. And I do think that the story that Carissa Broadbent is able to tell in so few pages is stunning and remarkable. And the romance between Lilith and Vale, it's definitely more of like a quiet, low-key kind of romance. It's very intimate the way that these two fall for each other. And I don't mean intimate in that there's like a lot of steamy scenes or anything like that. I think there's like 1 steamy scene in this. It's like they're falling for each other in the quiet moments that they share together. And I think that that makes their romance all the more beautiful and kind of refreshing in the romance genre, in the fantasy romance genre. Their dynamic is unique, I would say, in my opinion. And it's just a really beautiful story. I'm not sure that this is quite like a top favorite of 2025, but it's definitely up there. I also love how Carissa Broadbent explored the relationship between these 2 sisters, between Lilith and Mina, who, like I said, is suffering from this illness that Lilith is trying to cure. And in her monologue, she talks a lot about how just loving her sister isn't enough, and how she's going to show her sister true love and devotion by saving her, by finding a cure for this illness. She really believes that, you know, quality time isn't enough. Loving Mina isn't enough because that's not going to save her. And I just thought that that was a really interesting dynamic between the 2 of them. I also loved how that storyline came to a close by the end of this. I also love that Lilith is definitely neurodivergent coded. She is a really interesting main character to follow and also relatable in a lot of ways. I myself identify as neurodivergent. And no, I don't have an official diagnosis or anything like that. That is just a realization that I have come to on my own. But I did find her to be a very relatable character in the way that she kind of struggles to relate to the people around her, and she feels misunderstood. I definitely relate to those things. I am currently about halfway through Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. I am on page 178. That is chapter 18. And yeah, that's pretty much right at the 50% mark. And so I started this a couple days ago. This is very much a Christmas Carol inspired romance, very magical, very whimsical. This is about Harriet, our heroine, and Nolan, our hero. Nolan is a ghost of Christmas past, and he has been sent to haunt Harriet, for lack of a better word, to show her events from her past that will hopefully inform her once he hands her off to the ghost of Christmas present and then the ghost of Christmas future. But as this book is going along, we're seeing that both Nolan and Harriet are very much confused as to why he has been sent to Harriet, because Harriet is not a horrible person. It's not like she needs to atone for horrible sins and needs to change her ways or anything like that. And some very interesting magical things are happening along the way. And of course, Harriet and Nolan are starting to have feelings for each other. So this is actually my first book by B.K. Borison. I keep meaning to pick up her Love Light Farm series. I don't even know if that's the title of the series, but that's the title of book 1 of that series. And then I also have a physical copy of a book she came out with maybe last year, and I forget the title, but that one is also traditionally published, and so is this one. But this book came out a few months ago, I believe, and the plot just sounded so good to me. I am a sucker for anything remotely inspired by or related to A Christmas Carol, so I knew that this was the romance for me. So far, I'm really enjoying this. I would say right now it's like a very strong 4-star book. I definitely went into this expecting to be like immediately obsessed with this book and with these characters and with their romance, but I'm not, and I'm not really sure why. There's no concrete reason. I like the writing, I like the characters, I like the magic and the whimsy, but maybe this is just one of those books that I'm going to love more and more and more as I read it. But right now at the halfway mark, it's a strong 4-star book. And I definitely would recommend it. I really love the really cozy vibe that we have going on. And then speaking of A Christmas Carol, I am also in the middle of Ghosts of Christmas by Kenya Wright. This is my first book that I'm reading by this author, and I'm already really enjoying it so far. It definitely has a unique feel to it, even though it is very much inspired by A Christmas Carol. So this is about our main character, Ivy. Also, I want to mention before I forget, there are illustrations throughout this book, and I am obsessed with that. I really love the art style, and it really helps to set the scene, given that we're dealing with magic and things like this. So this is about our main character, Ivy. She is a fashion designer, a high fashion haute couture fashion designer, and she has traveled to Finland to be the maid of honor in her best friend Holly's wedding. And towards the very beginning of this book, I'm like 24% of the way through. I'm not very far into it at all, but it's like a 7-hour audiobook, and I flew through the first 25%. But very early on in the book, we see in a dream that Ivy has that when Ivy was 10, her mother took her own life. And not only that, Ivy was the one to find her mother after she took her own life. And I wanted to bring that up because that scene was very jarring for me. My jaw dropped to the floor. I was not ready for that much emotional turmoil from this book, though I have heard that Kenya Wright writes very angsty and emotional romances. But yeah, just know, like, this book gets real in a hurry. And so around where I left off, Ivy has this dream where her mother comes to her and tells her that 3 spirits are going to visit her. So we see that even though Ivy is thriving in her career, she's struggling in pretty much every other aspect of her life, and she's in therapy, but she has these very vivid nightmares about her mother. And yeah, meanwhile, there is kind of this situationship going on between her and this guy Saint, who is her best friend's brother, and the three of them were really close friends growing up. But Saint has been like head over heels in love with Ivy for a long time, but Ivy is keeping him at arm's length. And so right where I left off was when Saint and Ivy are reunited after a couple of years, and Saint is like, I am done with this back and forth. I know that I love you. I know that you love me. Let's do this for real. So I'm very curious to see where this book goes. I am about to jump right back into good spirits. I might finish this today. I think I have about like 6 hours left of the audiobook, but I also really, really want to read more of Ghosts of Christmas. So we will just see, but I am so excited to get so much reading done over the next few days because, like I said, I don't have any work commitments, and that is amazing. We need some. Oh, wait, I can steal someone. Yes. Yeah. You can steal.
If we get through this without a steal, this is the worst game ever.
I don't know. The Grinch stuff looks good.
No, I don't think so anywhere. That's last thing Family is not a gift. Well, this is everybody holds
I cannot. Muggins. Oh, there you go. It's got, yeah. All right, what is up, my dudes? Happy Friday. Today is the day after Christmas. I realized that I have not done a sit-down update for this vlog since I think the 22nd. So that's kind of crazy, but I'm getting plenty of B-roll for this vlog, which I'm loving. Personally, I really enjoy watching reading vlogs with a healthy amount of B-roll. It just makes me feel really cozy and kind of nostalgic. I don't know, like I'm watching home videos, like someone's home videos. I feel like I sound kind of poopy today, but I don't feel poopy. I have a little bit of chest congestion, but I just took some Robitussin. So yeah, but I'm not sick for once, which is awesome. So I had a really good Christmas. I will show you guys what I got for Christmas. I'm gonna wait a couple of days though, because I just placed an Amazon order last night for a couple of books because I got some Amazon gift cards for Christmas. So when those books come in a couple of days, then I'll show you everything that I got for Christmas. I'm just happy that I'm getting a lot of reading done. Reading makes me really happy. Obviously, I wouldn't have a channel all about books and reading if it didn't make me happy, right? So let's just dive into the update. So the first book I have to update you guys about is Good Spirits by BK Borison. I think I was like 20% into this. No, I think I was like halfway into this when I last updated. I ended up really enjoying this. I gave it 4 stars. I feel like it's a very strong 4 stars. I am a little disappointed that I am not as obsessed with this book as like everybody else seems to be. Like a lot of my friends have given this 5 stars and talk about it being one of their like top favorite books that they read this year. Unfortunately, it's not that for me. So when I look at this book, it does make me just a teensy bit sad, even though this cover is absolutely stunning. But I did really enjoy it for what it is. I really enjoyed Harriet and Nolan's characters, their story, their romance, the way that magic is incorporated into this story. And I really did enjoy the ending of this, how everything wrapped up. So there is a book that I read a few years ago. It's a YA fiction novel called The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. I adore that book. It is also a Christmas Carol retelling, reimagining. We have our main character Holly Chase, the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future come to her when she's like 16, but she doesn't listen to them. She doesn't take them seriously, and she ends up dying in a car crash like the next day. And in her afterlife, she ends up working in the offices of the ghosts of past, present, and future. And so this book, this story gives me slight vibes of that book, because we get a couple of scenes throughout this where Nolan goes to the offices of the spirits, basically, to talk to his supervisor. And so I really loved that vibe. We don't get too much of that in this book, but like I said, what we do get in this reminds me of that book. All that to say, I really enjoyed this book, but I really, really love The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. Go read it. It's honestly one of my like favorite books ever. I've read it twice and it made me cry both times, and it's fantastic. So definitely some similar vibes going on. But overall, I would highly recommend it. Odds are you're going to be more obsessed with this book than I am. I seem to be in the minority. It's going to be a series. I'm very intrigued about book 2. I think book 2 is called Good Tidings or something, but I think it has to do with, there is a character that is mentioned in this book who is a reaper who goes MIA, and that alone sounds very intriguing. So I think that's who the next book is going to be about. So excited for that. I finished Ghosts of Christmas by Kenya Wright. Speaking of A Christmas Carol, I ended up giving this 4 stars. This is a little bit of a weird book. The vibes are a little bit all over the place, because on the one hand, it's kind of a cozy, wintry, Christmassy second chance romance between Ivy and Saint, who is her childhood best friend. And it's a very sexy and spicy book. But then you also have the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come coming to her in dreams, and you know, showing her events from her past and what her future could be and all of that. And those scenes are very emotional and heavy. By the way, I mentioned this in my last update, though I might have cut the clip out. I thought this was going to be a why choose romance between Ivy and the ghosts that come to her. It's not. In fact, the 3 spirits that come to her only go to her because her mother's spirit has been in relationships with these spirits. And so her mom persuaded these spirits to come to Ivy to teach her what true love is. And so like that was kind of unhinged. So I guess I would say this book gave me a little bit of emotional whiplash. I think that's how I would describe it. It is a little bit all over the place, but there is something about it that feels unique. I also really did enjoy the illustrations throughout. I think I did mention that in my last update. And I really did enjoy Saint, our hero, Ivy's love interest. I love that he is just one of these heroes that isn't willing to give Ivy up and isn't willing to give up on her. He knows what she's struggling with and why she's so reluctant to giving their relationship a real chance, you know? And so he's always gonna be there for her. And yeah, their romance really was beautiful. And like I said, very steamy and spicy as well. So this book is interesting. Like, would I recommend it? Sure. But just know that it's kind of unhinged, kind of weird, I would say. Like, I don't know, just like a unique vibe. I decided to treat myself to a Tessa Dare reread, and I reread When She Was Naughty, which is the last thing that Tessa Dare has published. She published this like Christmas Eve in 2020, and this is a short story. It's not even a novella. I want to say it's maybe 50 pages at most, and this is about our main character, Chloe, and then the hero's name is Justin. And so they've been in each other's lives for like the past year because Justin's cousin recently married one of Chloe's, I think, brothers. But there's been like kind of this big misunderstanding between the two of them for the past year. Basically, Justin has fallen head over heels in love with Chloe, and Chloe does have feelings for him back, but she has interpreted his demeanor towards her as like he's annoyed by her and kind of hates her. So now it is Christmas Eve. It is the night of Chloe's family's Christmas Eve ball, their annual Christmas Eve ball. And Chloe has decided to prank Justin because Justin just seems so like stuck up and like buttoned up and like he needs to let loose, basically. And what we learn later is that this was also kind of her way to like get his attention, I think. And she decides to prank him by making this like god-awful, ugly Christmas waistcoat. Because this is a historical romance, so it wouldn't be an ugly Christmas sweater. She decides to like embroider a waistcoat for him that just looks incredibly like ugly and tacky, has like reindeer all over it and pom-poms and garland and things like that. And she tells Justin that it's a tradition in her family for all the men to wear ugly Christmas waistcoats to this ball. And so he shows up wearing the ugly Christmas waistcoat, but then he realizes that it was a prank done by Chloe. And so they have like a little bit of an argument, and then Justin decides to leave the ball because he feels that he's not welcome there. And so Chloe goes out after him to talk to him, and that's when he reveals that he has been in love with her this whole time, and she has just misinterpreted his feelings, basically. And I love this little short story so much because of Justin's love confession. Like, that is the highlight of this short story. Justin is so swoony, and he has been kind of like tortured and haunted by his love for Chloe. And oh, it's just so sweet. It's so sweet and swoony. But I will say this short story ends very abruptly, and I really wish it was at least like 20 pages longer so that we could have a real complete ending to the story. But other than that, this short story really is perfect, and I'm obsessed with it. I think this is like my third time reading it, and this is probably something I'll continue to reread around the Christmas season throughout my life. I'm currently in the middle of The Christmas Blanket by Candy Steiner. I am a huge Candy Steiner fan, and she is one of these authors that for some reason I go like months and months between reading one of her books, but when I do pick up one of her books, I usually end up loving them. And this is no exception. This is a novella as well, but it's a bit longer of a novella. I think it's about like 180 pages. And this one is a second chance romance between a divorced couple. And if you know nothing else about me, just know that the marriage and trouble trope and the second chance after a divorce trope is like my favorite thing to read in romance novels. Well, one of my favorite things to read, for sure. One of my top favorite tropes. So this is about Eliza, and at the very beginning of the novella, I'm just about like 18% of the way through it. I just read like the first maybe 3 chapters before I went to bed last night. But at the very beginning, she is driving through a literal blizzard, trying to get home to her parents. She is surprising them for Christmas. She ends up, unfortunately, her car ends up in a ditch because it's a blizzard, and so her car slips and goes into a ditch. But she's fine. She's just trying to find a way to get her car out of the ditch so that she can make it back to her parents' house. Meanwhile, where she crashes is near this cabin, and a man comes out trying to help her, and it turns out that this man is none other than River, her ex-husband. And so this becomes a snowed in forced proximity story that is Christmas themed, of course. It's taking place around Christmas. And where I left off, she is now staying in River's cabin with him. We're seeing that there's definitely still some animosity between the two of them. So I am really excited to jump back into this and see how the romance turns out, how they get to their happily ever after. Yeah, I'm already loving this. So that's gonna be it for this long ass update. I have been filming for over 20 minutes. What is wrong with me? I am really excited because in addition to reading The Christmas Blanket, I am starting Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab today, and I'm so excited. My loan for the audiobook came in a few days ago. I am a huge V.E. Schwab fan. I adored The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. I really enjoy her Vicious series. I've read a lot of books by her, and most of them I've really loved. So I'm just gonna read this little blurb on the back. It says, 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One grows high, and one grows deep, and one grows wild, and all of them grow teeth. I will give you guys an update once I get some more reading done. Hello everyone, happy Monday. It's definitely well past time for another reading update. Yeah, I don't think I've done an update since the day after Christmas. Today's the 29th now. First things first, I wanted to show you guys some things that I got for Christmas. I also placed an order, an Amazon order, because I got some Amazon gift cards for Christmas. And actually, I'm wearing one of my Christmas gifts right now. It's a Shiz University shirt that my sister got me. I'm obsessed with it. Let's just dive right on into it. So I got some things off of my Amazon wish list, which is always linked in the description below, by the way. I got some books off of said wish list that I'm very excited about. So first things first, I got The Autumn Bride and The Summer Bride, both by Anne Gracie. So these are 2 books from her Chance Sisters series, which is a historical romance series that I started this year and I'm absolutely obsessed with. I have read The Autumn Bride, which is book 1, and The Winter Bride, which is book 2. Love this series so much. It's so charming and just an utter delight to read from start to finish. And I definitely think The Autumn Bride may be one of my like top favorite books that I've read this year. That's how much I loved it. So happy to have these in my collection now. And then I also got this beautiful copy of Better in Black by Cassandra Clare. Look at that beautiful, stunning cover. So this is the latest book in the Shadowhunter Chronicles universe. I didn't even know this book was a thing until after it came out, actually. But this is a bind up of novellas that center around like all of the main couples in the Shadowhunters world. And actually, I just opened this up and I see that there is like some stunning artwork on the end pages. Oh my god. Like one of the novellas is about Jason Cleary, another one is about Will and Tessa, another one about Simon and Izzy. 10 stories of Shadowhunter romance. So yes, very excited to pick this up once I make my way through the Last Hours trilogy, which is the most recent series in this universe. I'm making my way through these books in chronological order. So I'm making my way through these books in the chronological order that they were published. So yes, like so excited to have these. So thank you so much to everyone who got me presents for Christmas. I did get some other things, but they're not like books or book related, so I didn't necessarily feel the need to show them here on camera. But I am so, so grateful for the people in my life, and for the people in my life that got me gifts. I'm very grateful. Then, like I said, I placed an order with Amazon because I have an Amazon gift card. The first book I got is A Curious Beginning, a Veronica Speedwell mystery by Deanna Rayburn. So I've come across this series kind of a few times over the years. And most recently when I came across this, I was reading some really great reviews, and this just seems like something that would be right up my alley. It's a historical mystery series that centers around Veronica Speedwell, our main character. I think there's a pretty prominent romance throughout, or maybe like her romantic life is also featured throughout this series. But this takes place in London, 1887. After burying her spinster aunt, orphaned Veronica Speedwell is free to resume her world travels in pursuit of scientific inquiry and the occasional romantic dalliance. Veronica intends to embark upon the journey of a lifetime, and it sounds like each book centers around a different mystery, and yeah, like this just sounds so good. I really like this cover. The next book that I got is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is a series that I've also kind of had my eye on for a while, ever since this first book came out. First of all, because like I'm obsessed with this cover. I love how they designed this hardcover, that it doesn't have a dust jacket. And so the reason why I was looking into this series again is because one of my friends, Riley Marie, I'll link her channel down below. I saw in her review of this book that she compared this to like Veronica Speedwell meets, I guess like Fae Fantasy or something like that. And so I was very intrigued by that review. This sounds really good. I think this is like a cozy historical fantasy. I think there's fantastical elements in this, but this is about Cambridge professor Emily Wilde. She's a genius scholar who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore, and Emily lives for her work. She emphatically prefers the company of her books, her dog, Shadow, and the fair folk to other people. And so I think each book centers around like a different place that Emily goes to research fae and folklore. And meanwhile, there is Wendell, I believe is the other major character's name, who is also a professor, I think, and they're kind of rival professors, both researching the same topic. And I think there's a romance between the two of them, and that just sounds really good. So I think both of these series aren't like romance novels, but there are prominent romances featured throughout, if I'm understanding that correctly. So very excited to have both of these in my collection now. And then I had to get Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Look at that stunning cover, and like, look at those stunning bright silver sprayed edges or foiled edges. Oh, that is so beautiful. I mean, this is a book in a series that I have heard so hyped up over the last year or so, ever since Quicksilver came out. Brimstone recently came out, and I've heard really great things about that sequel as well. I can't really remember what this is about, but I have a feeling that I'm really gonna enjoy it. It's like enemies to lovers, romantasy, and that's right up my alley. And I love this like beautiful yet simplistic cover. So let's get into a reading update, because I certainly have some things to update you guys about. I am in the middle of 2 books. I am in the middle of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V. Schwab. I am on page, let's see, 308. And that's like about 57% of the way through. I like flew through 200 pages of this last night. And oh my God, I am loving this so much. There's just something about V. Schwab's writing that draws me in and keeps me almost on the edge of my seat, basically. Like I savor her writing so much. It's definitely the kind of writing that I want to take my time with. Like, usually I can work my way up to listening to audiobooks at like 3 times speed, especially when following along with a physical or ebook copy. But I'm finding with this book that I'm listening to it at about 2.5 times speed, just because I don't want to rush through this. But at the same time, I'm also like devouring this book because it's just that good. I do want to point out it's definitely more character driven. I would say the same thing about The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. So if you are someone that prefers more like plot driven stories, I don't think you're gonna love this. And I have seen some reviews from readers who have expressed that they feel this book is very slow. We're essentially following 3 major characters and learning about their lives and how they each became vampires. They each were turned into vampires. We have Maria, who was turned in 1527. We have Charlotte, who was turned in 1827. And then Alice, who was turned in 2019. And so, like I said, we're following these 3 characters. So far, I would say Maria has been the most prominent character. We've been following her the most. But I have a feeling that we're gonna follow Charlotte a lot more past where I just stopped. And then we do follow Alice quite a bit. I have a feeling that these 3 characters' lives are going to intersect and interact quite a bit, especially by the end. So I'm very excited to see those connections. We've seen kind of like a little bit throughout, but I have a feeling there's a lot more to the story in these next 200 pages or so. Because where I left off, I'm on page like 308, and then I think this book has like a little over 500 pages. So I might even finish this today. But like I said, I don't want to rush my experience, so I might just read like 100 more pages today and then 100 pages the next day to finish this. And then I'm also, well, not really in the middle of, but I'm like 20% into The Lawrence Brown Affair by Sebastian. This is a queer historical romance that takes place during the Regency era, so in the 18-teens, I think specifically this is 1816. I think you guys know that I've been on a little bit of a queer romance kick, and I specifically was in the mood for a queer historical, and Sebastian is one of my favorites in the genre for sure. I actually read earlier this year You Should Be So Lucky, which is her most recent release, and that is a 1950s queer historical romance that I highly, highly recommend. That book is so good, especially if you're looking for a historical in that time period. I find that it's kind of unusual to find historical romances that center on that time period. So this is technically book 2 in the Turner series. So this series is basically about, I think, like the 3 Turner brothers, if I'm not mistaken. I have read book 1 of the series, The Soldier's Scoundrel, and I did really enjoy that. I gave that 4 stars. But like I said, I have given a couple of Sebastian's books 5 stars. So like, I really, really do enjoy her historical so much. This one is about Lawrence Brown, as you can tell from the title. He is the Earl of Radnor, and he truly believes that he is going mad because both his father and his brother went mad, and he is suffering from what I believe are panic attacks. But back in this time period, having a panic attack was deemed to be like an episode of madness, basically. So like, he truly believes that he is on the road to going fully mad one day. And so he's kind of a recluse. He just holds himself up in the family estate, and he's also a very smart man. He's a scientist, he's an inventor. I think where I left off, he's currently working on inventing the telegraph, which is insane to think about. My camera battery just died, but we are back. So then we have George Turner, our other hero of the story. This is an MM romance, and he gets roped into becoming Lawrence's secretary. Basically, he's trying to see what Lawrence's state of mind is for like a friend of the family who is worried about him. He's trying to see if he's really going mad, right? And so Lawrence just tries to immediately like scare George away. He tends to do that with servants because he just wants to be alone with his scientific pursuits. And like I said, he thinks he's going crazy, so he doesn't want to be around people. And so George just like doesn't bat an eye at his antics. And we see that there's definitely some attraction going on between these two. And I am here for it because it's giving the vibe of like, Lawrence is definitely like a quiet, grumpy man, and George is definitely kind of irreverent and flirty, and I love, love, love that vibe. But yeah, I'm on chapter 6, just about 20% of the way through, because I've only been able to read a couple of chapters of this at a time over the last couple of days when I'm not working my way through Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. So yes, very excited to jump back into this. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Cat Sebastian and her queer historical romances. So yes, I'm gonna dive back into both of these, and then I'll probably just give one more update for this vlog. Hello, 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 everyone. It is officially 2026, my dudes. This is the very first thing that I'm filming in 2026. I hope that everybody had a wonderful, safe, fun New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. I think that we can all agree that 2025 was a dumpster fire of a year. And so I'm happy to say that that is now officially in the past. This is my final reading update for this Vlogmas vlog and for Vlogmas 2025. I have finished 2 books since my last update, and I'm in the middle of 2 more. So we have quite a lot to talk about. First, I'm gonna update you guys on the Lawrence Brown affair. I finished this last night. I'm gonna give it like 3.5 stars. It's definitely not my favorite queer romance from Cat Sebastian, and I've come to realize, at least so far, the Turner series, which is what this book is a part of, is not as good, in my opinion, as her other historical queer romance that has these kinds of covers. I'm trying to remember what that series, oh, that series is called the Sedgwick series, because I think it centers around the 3 Sedgwick brothers. And book 1 of that series is It Takes 2 to Tumble, which is basically like a gender bent Sound of Music retelling in the Regency era, and it is everything. So yeah, the Sedgwick series is what's up, because those 3 books, I'm pretty sure I gave all of them at least like 4.5 stars. Whereas this series so far is just okay. I have heard really amazing things about the 3rd book of this series, which is called The Ruin of a Rake. Like a lot of my friends love, love, love that book. So I am looking forward to that book. But this book was kind of just okay. And book 1 of the series, The Soldier's Scoundrel, was good. It was decent, but nothing amazing. And so my main thing with this romance is that I felt that Georgie and Lawrence fell in love with each other too quickly. Like by the 50-ish% mark, they both were like thinking in their inner monologues about how much they loved the other person. And then by like the 60% mark, they both confessed their feelings. And I just feel like that was too soon. And so it took a lot of the tension and the chemistry and the longing out of the romance for me personally, even though there were other things getting in the way of them being together. And of course, this is an MM romance during the Regency era. Obviously, you know, these 2 characters being in a public relationship just isn't possible. But yeah, just a lot of what I was enjoying in the first like 20% or so was kind of gone in the later half. Yeah, this one just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. So now we're gonna talk about Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. Holy shit, this book was incredible. Incredible. This is one of those stories that it does remind me of The Invisible Life of Addie Larue, in that, you know, it's a historical fantasy, paranormal, you know, kind of story, but also in how this story covers 500 years, which just feels, you know, incredibly epic. I love stories like that where we are following immortal or mostly immortal people over the span of hundreds of years. I eat that shit up every time, which is one of the reasons why I love the Shadowhunter Chronicles by Cassandra Clare so much, because there are some immortal characters that we see in multiple series throughout the overarching series, and like I love that so much. And with this book, I really liked the way that V.E. Schwab used this passage of time, this 500 years, to show how these three major characters, we have Maria, Charlotte, and Alice, to show how these three characters are similar, to show how they're different, to show how some of them change over time. And of course, when I'm filming is when she decides to play with her toy. Baby girl, Lena, what you doing, baby? And one of the main points of this book is that we see one of the major characters. I don't want to spoil who, you know, I'm trying my best to keep anything remotely spoilery out of this video, but we see one of the characters, she goes from being someone you root for to being someone you end up rooting against. And I fucking loved that. I love how V.E. Schwab writes her characters, and I loved what she did with this book. I will say, there are times where this book is going to feel very slow, especially if you are someone that prefers a more plot-driven story. This is definitely a more character-driven story. I was thinking about this after I finished this the other night. Do I love this more than The Invisible Life of Addie Larue? Because like I said, there's similar vibes for sure going on, except with this story, I feel this is more like a cautionary tale leaning towards horror, because there's definitely elements in the story that are very unsettling. You know, this to me is more of a character study than like actually rooting for characters, if that makes sense. Whereas Invisible Life of Addie Larue, that is all about Addie, and you do come to love her and root for her, and you want the best for her, I feel like. Whereas this story just feels very different. You know, this centers much more on like hatred and feminine rage and sapphic vampires. And I love all of those things, but Addie Larue, I feel like, just centers more on like love and hope and wanting to be remembered, right? Just two very different vibes, but at the same time, they do have some similar kind of themes going on because of that historical feel, because they both take place over hundreds of years, all of that. So absolutely loved this. 5 stars. Cannot recommend it highly enough. I would just ask that you go into this with some patience, because I personally think that this story is worth it, is worth your time, but I could see some people getting impatient with the pacing. So, then I am currently in the middle of 2 books. I think I'm starting off my 2026 reading year pretty good. So I'm about 60% through Burnout by Rebecca Genshak. This is book 1 in her Holland Brothers series, which is a sports romance series. And one of the things that attracted me about this book is that one of the sports that's featured is motocross. And I have never, ever read a sports romance where a motocross is featured. Like, one of the main characters does motocross. So I thought that that was so cool. And I will say that's one of the elements that I think I'm enjoying the most out of this book so far, is following Knox, our hero, and his journey with motocross, and how he is someone who has always been a racer in his career, but now he is pivoting towards freestyle. Because from what I understand, those are basically like the 2 types of motocross. You have racing and freestyle. Freestyle is like, if you've seen those videos on like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, of people just doing insane tricks on motorbikes, like that is freestyle, and then racing is racing. But yeah, so we are following him, and then we're also following Avery, who is a very accomplished gymnast. They are both college age. I want to say they're both about like 20 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And both of these characters have kind of run into obstacles in their respective careers. And so the 2 of them end up meeting through mutual friends, and Avery ends up helping Knox with his like pivot towards freestyle by helping him train his body to be able to do those tricks. So she uses like her gymnastics training to help him with his freestyle. And then the two of them along the way also decide to start hooking up, but Knox claims that he's not a relationship guy and Avery claims that she's okay with that. And so they're just kind of hooking up while Avery is helping Knox with his skills. And I'm enjoying this. I'm not absolutely loving it, and I expected to enjoy this more than I am. And I think the main reason that I'm not is just the way that this like hookup situationship is going. I don't know, that trope in romance novels is not my favorite, but I have read some books where that really works for me. Like, let's say one of the main characters is like, I don't do love, I don't do relationships, I only want to hook up with you. The other character is like, okay, whatever, let's do it. And then the character who is so against love, like just falls head over heels for the other character and only has eyes for that other character. That's when it can work for me. In this book, it's not quite playing out like that so far. Like, we are seeing that Knox is obsessed with Avery for sure. And they definitely are becoming pretty close friends, and he's very supportive of her and her career. But yeah, there's just something about this that's not my favorite. I'm hoping in the last 40%, this book will win me over a little bit more, because I was really loving like the first 20% of this or so, because we were really focusing on these characters' like respective sports, and I liked the banter that was going on between the two of them. They were kind of trading insults. And now I'm still enjoying it, especially like I just read a scene where Knox introduced Avery to his family. And basically it's called the Holland Brothers series because there are these 5 brothers. Yes, there's 5 of them. And so this series is going to center on like each romance is going to center on a different brother of the family. And yeah, I'm really liking their dynamic. I've heard from a lot of people that this tends to be a lot of people's least favorite book in the series, so I'm looking forward to continuing on with the series and getting to the books that are more so fan favorites. And then last night I started this very, 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 very different book. It's called Married to an Alien Cowboy by Ursa Dax. This was recommended to me by a couple different people that I'm friends with and that I follow on Instagram, because this series was like one of their like top favorite things that they read in 2025. It's definitely been a while since I've read an alien romance, and this premise is very, very different from a lot of alien romances that I've read. So basically there is like this deserty planet. It gives like Wild West. And this race of aliens from the planet Zabria have exiled these few men of their race to this deserty prison planet. And they are all like cowboys and ranchers, basically. So you're following alien cowboys. And they have started this mail order bride program for these men who are exiled to this planet. And so we have Sylar, who is our alien dude, and then we have Cherry, who is basically on the run from some really bad people. She owes some really bad people a lot of money. And so that's why she volunteers for this program. And so where I left off, I'm like 32% of the way through. The two of them just got married, and there's already a really cute, adorable, wholesome vibe between Sylar and Cherry. When they got married, Cherry kissed Sylar, but kissing isn't something that these aliens are used to. That's not something that they do. But all Sylar knows is that he's very excited when Cherry kisses him. And so like he immediately leaves the building and like pours a bucket of ice cold water over him to like cool himself off. And that reminded me of, there's a scene in like, I think Queen of Shadows in Throne of Glass series, where things are kind of getting hot and heavy between Aelin and Rowan, and then Rowan goes into their room and like douses himself in ice cold water. And so yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. This is definitely very different from everything else I've been reading lately, which is definitely much needed because I don't want to get into a reading slump or anything like that. So I just kind of want to make sure I'm keeping things fresh and fun with my reading, basically. So that's gonna be it for Vlogmas weeks 3 and 4. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you kept up with all my Vlogmas vlogs, I truly love and appreciate you. And I'm excited to go into this new year with you guys and document what I'm reading along the way. So with all that being said, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do. And with all of that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.